dollar is a dollar and a dime is a dime. We'd sing another chorus, but we ain't got the time. Back to MMA Lockup.
I ain't happy. I'm feeling glad I got sunshine.
Welcome to MMA Lockup. This is Bernard Oliver. Guys, it's been a while since we've been on. We want to say hello to you. I'm joined by Dr. Gary Furness. Dr. Furness, say hello.
Hey, good afternoon and good evening.
We're glad to have Dr. Furness back here. Make sure you guys go like us on Facebook at MMALockup.com. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at MMALockup. Dr. Furness, getting right into it. Last weekend's card, a little boring. You won't really hear me call a UFC card boring all the time, but it had its little bumps in there, but it was pretty much not the greatest card to put on free TV.
No, as it turned out, there certainly have been better. So I guess I'll look at the highlights. You can certainly make the case that Mighty Mouse is absolute top of his division. Stone cold, the best there is at his weight. Problem is there aren't too many people at his weight. So we'll see who they're going to bring up for someone to compete with him. But for me, the highlight was Robbie Lawler.
Robbie, I was totally ready to write him off as washed up and ready to be gotten rid of, and he comes in the UFC with two massive knockouts.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's on quite a roll. It looked like in his Strikeforce days he was struggling. I think he was, maybe only 1-4 in his last 4 Strikeforce shows. I know he lost to Kennedy and he lost to Larkin, and looked like, okay, he's one of those guys that just can't adapt. But since that time, he's been on a roll. Obviously, destroying Koscheck, that was big. Then he beat, I think, Volker not too long ago, and then with other than his KO Volker, he beat I think it was a Russian guy in his next to last Strikeforce. So he's been on a good heater.
Yeah, Robbie, man, it's really weird. A lot of people jumped on and said, Robbie's back, he's back. What can you say about Robbie Lawler that hasn't already been said at that point? And I was kind of one of those guys that was like, man, I don't think that he's back. I think we need to prove a little bit more before we say he's back. And then he comes out and knocks out his next opponent in the UFC, and I'm just like, wow, maybe the guy is back. Does he make a title run here pretty soon?
Yeah, I mean, certainly if he gets a couple more, you can make a case. And one nice thing about a Robbie fight is you're not going to have the UFC fans boo like they might have at another fight during that card.
Yeah, that Ellenberger and McDonald fight was awful.
I was gonna leave that to the better left unmentioned. Kind of like Voldemort in Harry Potter.
No, I am gonna mention it just for a second, just because I was so flabbergastedly, if that's a word, bored with that fight, and there was just nothing going on. You didn't have any engagement, and that's really weird to see.
It is. You think if you come out with a strategy and okay, like you want to counterpunch, but the guy jabs you into hamburger in the first 2 rounds. In the 3rd round, your response is to be more hamburger. That's really weird.
Yeah, I was not impressed with those guys. Not going to waste too much time on them. The card overall wasn't the greatest card ever. It wasn't super boring. Liz Carmouche had a great performance in her fight. I heard Julie Kedzie and Jermaine Derandami had a good fight, and I didn't get to see that one. But overall, the card was not a win. It was not in the win column for the UFC. No,
and that may be a segue into the UFC coming up, because I'm afraid they may be 0-2 here pretty soon.
That being said, the hype videos and everything for Tough and for the UFC 163 coming up this weekend, they were all amazing, and I was super into the commercials when they came on. I was really impressed with the presentation there. Fox is really taking this thing and running with it.
Yeah, they are. Well, if you look at the history of women MMA matches, can you come up with a boring one? And I think the answer is probably going to be not really. So they come through. And then when you take 2 of the women who absolutely seriously seem to detest each other, it's going to be an interesting show.
I don't think you could find a matchup with any more hate in it than these two. I mean, I saw a screenshot today of a face-off with Ronda Rousey and Tate, and Tate backs up. I mean, Rousey backs up and gives her the finger in front of Dana White and everybody at the press conference. Man, I can't wait until that show comes on.
Yeah. I think you have to go back perhaps to Tito versus Shamrock to get the genuine dislike.
Yeah, that's a very good comparison. We always kind of touch on that when we get these epic, hate matches that come up. And I think this one, out of all of them, Jones, Evans, they didn't really like each other that much. That one was a pretty good one. Other than that, you had a couple, Rampage and Rashad, but I don't think anything really compares to the seething rage that Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate show each other.
And after Tito would destroy Ken, they would kind of hug and make up until the next one. Mm-hmm. I don't think these two are going to hug and make up regardless of who wins.
No, I think if there were deathmatch rules in the UFC, I think this would be the first candidate for that.
Yep, and if we're ever going to see a mixed tag team in MMA, it would be these two with their boyfriends.
That would be a spectacle, would it not?
Yes, it would, and you already, I can tell you, not compared to Ronda versus Miesha, but the Diaz boys do not like Team Alpha Male, so that's on a good day.
Yeah, exactly. I think a little bit of Diaz is rubbing off on Ronda. I know we've been saying that for the past couple of months, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going on.
Yeah, I think so. And then Caraway's comments about marijuana usage and so on and so forth probably are just a little extra thick frosting on top of a very attractive cake.
You think we ever see a Diaz-Caraway matchup in the future?
Yeah, I think you could.
Who do you have in that fight? Like I don't have to ask.
Oh, sorry. Diaz morning, noon, and night.
Definitely. Well, with TUF or just around the corner, UFC on Fox Sports 1 is just around the corner. Fox Sports 1 is really coming out as the anti-ESPN, the ESPN killer. Man, they're really raring to go, aren't they? Yeah, they are. They're putting a lot of coin to it, so it's going to be interesting to see how their product goes. You're listening to MMA Lockup on Fox Sports 1190. Man, Dr. Furness is with us again. We haven't talked to Dr. Furness in quite a while. We've been going through some things. We went to Vegas to cover UFC 162. Make sure you guys get on MMALockup.com and check out our YouTube channel, and make sure you guys see all the footage that we got there, all the interviews and such that we got there. Dr. Furness, moving on into the next fight, the next card really is UFC 163 in Brazil. The Korean Zombie versus Jose Aldo for the championship there. This fight has all the implications of being over very quickly or being an all-out war. Yeah, it sure does. I mean, I think like almost everybody, if a doctor can be a fan, I would be a Korean Zombie fan. I had the pleasure of taking care of him before and after his fight, first fight in the WEC when he had that absolute war with Leonard Garcia. And this is one of the few times you see a guy who loses a really tough decision, and had no ill will, no nothing. Just wanted to congratulate Garcia on a great fight. Was pretty significantly injured and didn't want to do anything until after the post-fight press conference. It was a pretty amazing display of sportsmanship, and I'm happy to see he's getting his title shot here. Before we move on to Aldo, do you remember how damaged he was back then? What was the extent of his injuries? Without displaying too much doctor-patient confidentiality, let me just say he had one leg and one arm to work with after the fight. That is a sign of an all-out war between those two. They had two great fights. The second one ended with the magnificent twister that he put on Leonard Garcia. I see his submission game being a bit of a problem for Jose Aldo if he gets him to the ground. It could be, though. You got a legitimate Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt to contend with there. I have to admit, I had no clue what a twister was. Yeah, before he hit it, I was trying to figure it out. When he put it on Garcia, I was like, what does he do? Is that a he's got him in a body triangle. Well, is that a choke? What is he doing right now? Yeah. Obviously, Joe Rogan got excited, and I suspect a few of us hit YouTube afterwards, but that was a real sweet submission I did not know existed. Yeah, I was blown away by that I don't think it had ever been used in competition before then. Since then, we've seen it in a couple of amateur events. I know when I went to Show Fight up in Missouri, I forget the guy's name. I'm so bad I can't remember his name, but he got a guy in a twister about a month or two after Korean Zombie did. And I was like, wow, that's made it all the way down to, somebody, wanting to emulate the Korean Zombie. And it was really amazing to see him do it. And the second time seeing it, I was like, is he really going for a twister? And that's what he did. And I think Korean Zombie really set a precedent for that move being used.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of to come close to that was when Nick Diaz got Gomi in a Gogo Plata.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, that I had some dim memory of what it was until you actually saw it in a real fight. It was like, whoa, that's freaking impressive.
Yeah, I am so blown away by people who use such high-level jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, in MMA. It's really beautiful when you see somebody sink something in like that, and I don't know what you can really compare it to. I guess when you see a beautiful counterpunch on the feet, it's really hard to compare that to anything.
Yeah, it's sweet. It takes a lot of work and time and to pull it off. So, having said that, I don't think he's going to put the twister on Aldo. You got a guy that's gone through the who's who of his division for years. Guy hasn't lost, I think. I don't want to exaggerate, but it's at least 2006.
I believe it's about 7 years.
If you look at John Jones, if he's undefeated in 3 more years, then you could say he's got to run like Aldo.
Mm-hmm.
I know that if Aldo wins this, there's still going to be talk of him going up to 155, and frankly, the way he's destroyed the division, assuming he wins, I'd like to see it because he would be in rarefied air there. He'd be up with B.J. Penn if he can pull that kind of move off.
Yeah, definitely, man. Aldo is one of those people. He's kind of a quiet kept, I don't want to say secret because of the MMA community. Of course, everybody knows who Jose Aldo is, but you can say his name and people don't know who he is. The casual fan might not know who he is. And this guy's a champion. I think he's very humble and he's very quiet. He goes out and he takes care of business. He destroys people. He destroys their body parts. And he's the single reason for making the leg kick KO a thing in the UFC and making it a move in a video game. I mean, that is Jose Aldo that created that. Yeah,
at least recent. As we know, there were some other forerunners back in the 90s. I mean, you look at what happened to poor Tank Abbott on his legs a couple times. But you're right. I mean, in terms of recent history, his leg attacks have been it. What'll be interesting, I think, to see is if Jose makes the move up to 155, if people like Faber all of a sudden go, you know what, make him 135 kind of sucks. I want to be 145 again.
Yeah, I mean, if he leaves that class, it leaves a giant vacuum. I think you bring up a great point there, and if you heard it here first on MMALockup with Dr. Gary Furness, Aldo moving up to 155. I'm going to pull that up in the event that it happens. I'm going to pull it up, and I'm going to highlight that on the website for you, Dr. Furness.
Thanks.
But yeah, before we get out of here, what's Aldo's game plan going into this fight?
I honestly think he just mauls him.
Just comes out and puts on a show?
Yeah, I just think we're talking maybe 10, 15 pounds of extra muscle. And I think scrunch against the cage, dirty boxing, kicks. I don't think it's going to be a competitive 5 rounds.
The most important question is, Aldo's been destroying everybody in that class since he got to the UFC. We really haven't seen WEC Jose Aldo, the lightning fast, leg kicks, everything just 150 miles an hour. Do we see the original Jose Aldo from WEC come out in this fight?
I think there is a good chance because of Korean Zombie's speed and agility. And I think he may think that's necessary. I mean, obviously, I guess I got kind of rose-colored Aldo glasses, but I think one of the things I love about him is he's the consummate professional. He doesn't come out like with Tito Ortiz when he was dominant. Everybody's going to get ground and pounded, or Chuck Liddell, I'm going to counterpunch you KO. I mean, Aldo does all different kind of attacks, and they're very effective. And so I just have great admiration for him. And I think we're going to see a speedier Aldo this time.
And guys, you're listening to MMA Lockup on Fox Sports 1190. I think Aldo's going to come out, and he's really going to put on a show against Korean Zombie. The thing I'm worried about is Zombie getting him down to the ground and really showing off the rest of his BJJ game. I'm not going to count Korean Zombie out, but I am going to pick Jose.
Yeah, I think that's a smart pick. I mean, love the zombie, but probably close the wallet.
All right, Dr. Furness, it's been awesome having you on again this week. I know we've been kind of topsy-turvy since we got back from Las Vegas. We got a lot of big things in the works. Can we look forward to talking to you next week?
I sure hope so. It's fun. It's good to stir the mind about upcoming MMA events, and then you can kind of forget the ones you really screwed up and go, hey, that's the one I called.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to mention somebody picked Anderson Silva.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have to hear it from Chris every day. You should have seen him at the fight. Everybody was up in arms, and Chris is just looking at me from about 15 people down. He's just looking at me. I'm like, thanks, Chris. Yeah, I know he lost. He's knocked out in the ring right now.
Sorry, I'm 59 years old, but I do have a lot of child in me still.
No, I wouldn't call it childish at all, because, when the rematch happens, I'm going to talk a lot of crap to you guys, so let me have it. Just let me have it for a few months.
Okay, fair enough.
Dr. Furness has been awesome. If you could hang on the line for me.
Yes, indeed.
All right, guys, that was Dr. Gary Furness, the Strike Force, formerly the Strike Force Ringside Doctor, now just UFC, boxing, Muay Thai, anything where people are getting their faces destroyed, Ringside Doctor. You guys make sure you go like us on MMALockup.com. You make sure you go follow us on MMALockup.com on Twitter. You make sure you go look at the website, do all that crazy stuff, get on social media. We're on Google Plus now. We're on YouTube. I mean, I'm making sure that we're everywhere. You guys can't miss us when you're online. You're looking for us. Make sure you go watch our interviews, everything we did from Vegas to UFC 162, and make sure you keep it locked right here on Fox Sports 1190.
It's a slam dunk. It's a touchdown. Nope. MMA Lockup. The season that never ends.